Welcome to our channel.
Hi.
This evening we thought we'd talk a little about some of the mistakes we've made when we were waking up, and maybe a few tips to help you avoid those same mistakes. I can remember before I woke up that I was talking to a chap that I've known, a fellow JW, known him since I was about 17, and we were talking about field service, and he said to me, I said, what do you think about the overlapping generations teaching? And he said, I think it's a load of rubbish. And I was quite surprised by that, because I thought it was a lot of rubbish too, but I had never verbalised that to anybody, and generally JWs just don't share their doubts, as you would well know. So I said to him, well, what would you do if you went out in the ministry and you started a Bible study with somebody and you got through to the Bible Teach chapter where it talked about the generation, and you had to teach this rubbish? And he said, I'd hand the study on to somebody else. I thought, well, that's great. Someone else is going to be okay to give the misinformation, but you're not. So I said to him, oh, okay, that's a bit weird. And he went on to say that he was not going to give the watchtowers out in the ministry anymore. He was just going to use his Bible, which I took to mean that he didn't want to be giving out misinformation to people. So you can see where people, when they have some facts brought to their attention that don't make sense, they just back them off because they don't want to admit that what they've invested their life in is actually rubbish. And I can remember when I was, just before I woke up, I was out in the ministry and I was just walking on the street. I hadn't even gone to this guy's house, and he came out into his garden and he yelled out at me, "Go away, you self-righteous so-and-so." Not quite those words, but you get the drift. And that really bugged me for months. I was thinking, how could he tell that I was self-righteous? We didn't even talk to him. We didn't even go up to his house. And it just nagged at me. And so I think that one of the big things is to mention questions or drop thoughts into people's minds that will actually get them to think, that will drill down to their inner moral sense, their moral compass, and get them thinking. And I can remember when we first started to wake up, I just mentioned to Joy, Google Candace Conti, because I didn't really want to let her know that I was sort of doubting and I wasn't sure how she would react. And what did you do when I suggested that?
Well, I happened to look up some articles on Barbara Anderson. I stumbled upon it, I'm not sure how. And she had found a manila folder at the bottom of a metal cabinet. And she went to ask, what is this? She went through the articles that were in there and was horrified to find that it was on pedophiles and how they were being hidden. And she got the brush off, and eventually she ended up leaving the organisation. And I thought, this is amazing, this just can't be. We take articles to the door, watchtowers, telling people that this sort of thing does not happen in God's true organisation. And all the while, it had been happening for years, and we didn't know about it.
Yeah, very much so. And we found at the outset, when we started waking up, that you're really enthusiastic because you've found all this stuff that's just amazing that has been hidden, and all these lies about the records that they had of all the pedophiles in Brooklyn. They knew it was going on, and they just moved these elders around or allowed them to be reappointed. They didn't warn families to protect their kids or anything like that. And we're just blown away, and we thought, so other people are going to be really interested in this too. Not so interested. They end up just branding you as an apostate and shunning you. In fact, this brother that I was talking about earlier, who didn't want to teach the overlapping generations teaching, he sent me an email where he insisted that I confirmed to him by email that the governing body was the sole channel that Jehovah was using today, and if I didn't, he was going to shun me. Well, obviously I couldn't accept that and answer positively, and so he's shunned us ever since, even despite Jeffrey Jackson saying that he wasn't the Soul Channel, but hey, you get the drift. So we thought we'd just share that. When you are newly awoken and you are enthusiastic about things, you can often just spill it all out to people. And a much better way we would do now, although we were the ones that spilled our guts to everybody, a much better way to do it would be just to ask some really tricky questions that drill down into a person's morality, like one that I've quite often mentioned on Reddit is, why is a loving God going to murder millions of babies that can't even walk or talk at Armageddon? Why would a loving God do that? What have those babies done that is so bad? Aren't there logically millions of those kids that are great human beings?
Of course, we were always brought up to believe that the children follow the parents. So if the parents are responsible for their children and the parents die because they show no interest or fall out or whatever, then their kids die too. And we thought that it was fine at the time.
And it is amazing how your morality gets suppressed as a Jehovah's Witness. You become more cold, more removed from reality, because that's exactly what the cult is doing. They're isolating their members, they're making it a them versus us situation, so that creates a coldness about everybody else, and that coldness is very easily translated to members who leave because they cease to be part of that group. They're now one of the baddies outside there. So we just thought we'd share that. Think up some nice questions, but don't necessarily out yourself with a big outburst of great stuff that you've found, because that's just going to get you branded, and it may not suit your plans to fade or whatever to do that.
I think it's better that you miss a meeting here and there, you miss field service here and there, and gradually do more and more until you become weak, real weak.
And then you still might be able to drop some questions to your supposed friends in the hope that they might wake up. But that's all for now. We don't want to let these videos get too long. So if you like what you've seen, please click the like button and subscribe and get that bell ringing so that you get notifications of our next video. Thank you very much for watching our channel.
Bye.
Bye.